Uh, Thank you. Welcome. My name is Bob, and we are still continuing on the law of personality, looking deeper and detailed the ownership, what ownership is all about. All right. Ownership is the state or effect of exclusive rights and control over property, which may be an object, land, real estate, or intellectual property. Right. On that definition, maybe I would want to touch a few things like intellectual property. Intellectual property is your brains. What is in your brains? Your skill. Yeah, you have ownership. You have rights to that. Yeah. If anyone tries to, it can be stealing if possible, but I don't think anyone can steal can steal your skill. Maybe if it is on paper, but you have the rights to intellectual property. That's why even it can be, if you check very carefully, if you check films, it is written under there, you'd see it is written all rights reserved, meaning to say the rights are only reserved to the owner of that, the owner of the production. Whoever produced that film has got all the rights to that film. So that's intellectual property. It can be a novel. You cannot act any film basing on a certain novel without approaching the owner of the novel, because that's intellectual property. Even copying. That's why we give, you see, when you're writing, it can be assignments, it can be some thesis or a research paper. We say you must put references down. What does it mean? You refer to the owner of the property, the intellectual property. Right. So it can also even involve things like occupation, prescription. You have right to prescription. Your prescription is your prescription. No one has got the right to go through it without your permission anyway. It can be registration of anything, delivery, things like that. So all those things, they fall under ownership. Then rights of the true owner. You know, vindication refers to the right of the true owner to recover possession from anyone in whose or his property is found. Right. Vindication, it means you have the right in everything. In your own property. You have the right to vindicate anyone who is trying to possess or who is illegally taking or use your property without your permission. Any true owner may go to get an order dispossessing a possessor of possession. Remember, I said there's a difference between ownership and possessor. So a possessor can be displaced, but an owner has got the right to vindicate. So the owner has got the right to vindicate even the possessor. But the possessor has no right to vindicate the owner, because the owner has got all the legal rights over the property. In a contract of sale, the buyer merely purchases vacue possession. Vacue possession, it simply means the right of a possessor. Because in a contract of sale, the buyer is a possessor. You are buying and you become a possessor. And what you are buying what you call vacue possession. And that, it only means the right as in possessor to that property, plus an implied warrant against eviction. An implied warrant against eviction, it means, let's say you have a lease for a building, to use a building for 10 years. Within that lease, there is what we call implied warrant against eviction. You cannot evicted against that agreement or against the lease. If the lease is saying 10 years, then only the listed conditions, that if you breach the listed conditions in the lease, yes, the owner can then, or has the right to evict you. But in any case, the lease is binding for that period, because you have what we call vacue possession rights. Then let's say you want to pass ownership from, you want to pass ownership to the second part, to the third part. For a court to find that ownership passed in a contract of sale, 3 elements must be proved. Remember, if you go and buy a car, the registration book, if it is a garage or a car sale, the registration book is in the name of the car sale. Right. Let's say the car sale now wants to transfer ownership from the car sale name to you. Right. it must, transfer of ownership, in any case, it must, the first thing, the seller must have intended, must have intention to pass ownership to the buyer. You cannot say, I have this car, I'm possessing this car, I got it from this car sale, without the car sale confirming their intention to pass ownership to you. Confirmation of passing of ownership can be seen by, it can be registration book, it can be any agreement of sale. That's why we have agreement of sale. Agreement of sale shows or indicates the intention to pass ownership to the buyer. All right. The seller must have intended to acquire ownership at the time of delivery. That's why we have signatures when you receive the property. Or when you receive it can be anything. It can be land. When you're given the land, you then just sign on date to say, I have received it and I can start using it. You must also have an intention. All right. We have different types of properties under ownership. We have what we call immovable property. Immovable property, it can be land. You cannot move land. Buildings, you can't move buildings. Yeah. The real right of ownership is transferred only on registration. You see, when you have a farm, you register with the Ministry of Lands in your name, that farm. But you cannot move that land. So, transfer of ownership, you have to go to the registration offices and change the name of the original owner to the person who is buying the property. The registration process is equivalent of delivery. Yeah, delivery is when your goods or the property is brought to you. Now, on immovable property, you cannot move land. But how do you move land? By transferring through registration. Re-registration, in fact, you change the names. That's delivery, right? Ownership is passed even if the price has not yet been not paid. It depends with the agreement. That one, it depends with the agreement. When you agree, the two of you, to say, no, we shall settle the payments later, but the papers must then be signed to show transfer of ownership. Then later on, you can carry on with your payments. Transfer duty is liable in respect of the acquisition of all immovable property in terms of Transfer Duty Act. Now, that one is an act of parliament, which then should be followed. If there is tax to be paid, then it should be paid. Everything that should be done on registration should be done. That does not include you guys paying each other, no. As long as you agree, then Transfer Duty Act will start to apply. We also have what we call incorporeal property. The right of ownership is transferred by cessation, for example, the transfer of patent of copyright. These are things like deeds, right, shares. When you are buying patent or shares from the owner. So cessation, for example, cessation is when then you hand over the papers and the change of names. Because the shares, especially the shares, they don't carry the name of the owner. But where these shares are bound, like for example a company, that's when the name of the owner is appearing. So when you seize now, when you because it's not something which is tangible, it's a measure, it's a rate to say, Mr. Khumalo, you have 2% shares in this company. So it's just a measure, transferable. So when you seize, when cessation, you can have a certificate, yes? You can have a certificate for those shares, yeah. But cessation is when then you give up and the new name is appearing on those shares. Right? Then we also have what we call movable property. The real right of ownership can be transferred by actually delivering or constructive delivery. Right? You deliver the car to the owner. You deliver it can be equipment to the owner. That's movable property. Where movables have been sold for cash, ownership does not pass until the price has been paid, even if there has been. That's what you call cash on delivery. We can only deliver the property when you pay the cash. That's cash on delivery. And we shall proceed with, this is the end of chapter 10. We shall proceed with the law of personality in the next chapters. Thank you.